Welcome everybody to Crypto Rosetta. My name is Savage. Today we're going to be having a look at BTC. Let's get into the charts and see what's going on. Okay, before we go over the micro accounts, just going to have a quick overview of the higher time frame thing that we're looking at here. And what we are saying is that potentially this could be a wave 1 and a wave 2. Now, what we want to see here for this to actually confirm itself, if this is 1-2, we'd be expecting a 5-wave sequence to the upside, looking for this target here, which is currently sitting towards us 42,023. Now, what we would then need to see after this would be a 4th wave holding above this wave 1 and then continuation to the upside. And this would imply that we're starting to get extension within the waves here, and that from further back here we have another 1-2, and this would mean that we are actually in a wave 3 already. But we need to see this impulsive 3rd wave actually start. For the time being, it is still uncertain whether this corrective move is completed to the downside. We could potentially see lower targets come in here. Other areas of support lower down would be between this 50% and the 786. So this is what we're looking for here. We're going to go over the internals in a second, but we also need to be on the lookout for this potential that this could actually also be a bigger W, X, and a Y here. In which case, what we'd be arguing is that this is our W wave, this is our X wave, and we're looking for a Y wave. The targets remain the same here. Minimum requirement we'd be looking for here as that Y wave would be this 0.618, which is sitting at this 28,416. And then the 1-to-1 is actually lower down here towards this 26,507. Now, we could also potentially get this as a 5-wave move to the downside, in which case what we would be looking for is the potential to come back down here and target out this 25,360 to this 23,646. So on the lookout for this potential. There is quite a lot of overlap here. There's a couple of ways this can come down in that 5-wave sequence, but we need to see it confirmed because it is looking very choppy still, this move to the downside. So it is making it more likely that if this is going to be within one of these, it's going to be this Y wave. However, we need to just be aware of this idea of this as a C wave. So what we're going to do first off here is talk about our bullish count, where we are saying that this could be potentially a wave 2 completed. Now, if this is a wave 2 completed, the way that we would have to look at this is we'd have to say that this has been a bigger flat correction, where this is A, B, and C, where we have this is 1, 2, 3, 4 with the triangle, and this is a 5th wave. Now, there is some overlap on this wave, but the end of the triangle actually would complete underneath the wave 1, which is still fine within Elliott wave theory. So if this is the case, what we'd be looking for is an impulse to the upside. Now, we don't really have enough confirmation of this, and we're going to go over the idea of seeing a move up here quickly, and then we're going to go back through the other options. Now, if we are looking at this as a potential move to the upside in a 5-wave move, the way that we would be looking for this would be that this move to the upside is actually our wave 1, and what we're looking for is more confirmation that we are within this wave 3. Now, this wave 3 would be looking to typically move up towards this zone here, which is actually sitting now towards this 31,231 level, and then we'd be looking for an additional 4th and a 5th. Now, the reason why this is looking less likely currently is because we're just moving sideways here. What I want to see for this is, if this is the case, we want to start holding these lows here and start to push up above some of these highs and start to break out in a bigger way. Now, it is always possible that within this, if this is 1-2, we could be looking to form another 5-wave move like this is another 1-2 here, and then we look to progress up. It is also possible that we could have these as a series of 1s and 2s in here, waiting for price to explode to the upside. Now, the thing within this count is we're going to have to protect these lows here. As soon as we start taking out some of these lows, then it effectively becomes less likely that this is looking for that impulse to the upside. Now, there's 2 ways that we can look at this. Potentially what we can argue is that this is 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, and this is actually a diagonal pattern from further back here, where we have this as a wedge shape. Now, if this is the case, what we could actually see is a more substantial drop to the downside. Invalidation of this continuation would come at this 28,807. Now, from the current area where we're sitting, if we are looking at this structure, we're looking for a C wave down. So technically speaking, if we get this as 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, this could align with actually completing. Now, the targets that we'd be looking for here as possible targets to complete in would be, generally speaking, between this 1236 and this 1618. Now, most commonly what we get here, if this is going to be something like a flat correction, would be a move down towards this 50% and this 382. Now, this would align quite nicely with this second target over here, where we could say that, you know, between this 29,031 and this 1.618 down here, this 28,965 could be a potential turning point. Now, if this is the case, what we'd be expecting is to see another 5th wave to the downside here, and then seeing price reverse and actually take this high. If we do get 5 waves down here and we fail to take this high, we need to be careful that the more bearish situation isn't playing out, where we could see that continuation to the downside one more time. Now the key thing here is that if we do get a B, and a C, and we still manage to hold this invalidation point here, it is still possible that, like I said, this could actually be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 as a sneaky diagonal pattern here. We get 3 waves to the downside, and whether we still look to push to the upside. Now if we do see something like that, where this becomes effectively A, B, and a C, then it becomes more likely that we're going to push down towards these lower targets here of this 618 to this 786 level. If we're looking at this as just a 5-wave move down and it's going to retrace and move back above these highs as a flat, then what I'd want to see is somewhere between this 0.382 and this 50% level. So going to be watching that. We do have some lows here. We might look to swing fail these and then look for that continuation to the upside after that point. Now, like I said, we've got to be a little bit careful with how we count the structure here, because even if we do get a 5-wave move to the upside like this, this would not mean that, we've got confirmation of a trend yet, because effectively what we need to do here to get that confirmation of a trend is to move back above this level here of this 31,231. So what we will need to see is this 5-wave move come in and then find support again above this 30,283. That would be what we're looking for our bullish count. Now, within the idea that, this is potentially a C wave to the downside here, what we need to be very careful of is there's still potential here that this could either be 1, 2, 1, 2 here, and we're looking for this 3rd wave, which is looking for this 27,174. Now, this is why it's going to be important within the current structure that we've got that we start breaking back above these highs, because unless we start to take these highs again, it starts to become less likely that, we're going to see this continue up, and rather that we could be setting up for a much deeper move to the downside. So this is why I'm just monitoring this at the moment. It is also possible that instead of counting this way, what we could argue is that from this high, we have this as 1, 2 over here, and then this is another 1 and a 2. Now, if this is the case, effectively this would change the target slightly. 27,753 is going to be our target here as a 3rd wave, and then we need to see this 4th wave not overlap with this wave 1, and then see a 5th wave to the downside. So this is another way we can still look to push down here, and within the smaller degree count here, what we would be looking for within this is saying that potentially what we could have here is that this move over here is 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, 4, and 5. Now, if that is the case, effectively what we could have here then is that this is either a wave 2 here, and then we have a diagonal pattern here as another 1, 2. Now, the reason I don't like that idea is because effectively, if we do have this as another 1, 2 here, this secondary wave 2 is a lot bigger. Even looking at this move in this way, this wave 2 is starting to stretch out. If it starts to break down from this point, it would make it, still viable, but we'd need to see a move down towards this 28,387 to confirm this. And what I'd want to see is, like I was saying here, if we see this move make 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, then we see 3 waves up and we fail to take this high again, we need to be on the lookout for that idea that this could be looking to extend to the downside. Now, if we do see this push down in this way, like I said, 28,387 is going to be our target area. We're looking for to start thinking about this wave 3. If we get this move down here, then we're going to have to watch how we respond. If we stay below this wave 1, then we could be looking for this continuation down towards the zone of this 28,311 to this 28,192. Now, the problem that I have within this count is the idea would be that we need to see price actually push down to this 27,742. If this is going to be another 1 and a 2 here, we need to see this lower target come in here. If we just get a 3-wave move to the downside, effectively there are 2 ways that I'm currently looking at this. If we just get this as a an A, a B, and we get a C down here, and we fail to hit this 1618, we need to be on the lookout that this could just be all a bigger corrective move from the top end here. And the way that we'd be looking at that would effectively be along these lines, where we treat this as a bigger W, an X, and a Y here. And what we could say here is, like I said in the previous video, I'm looking for the potential that this could become A, B, and C to the upside. But if we fail to actually take this high again, it is also possible here that we could have this Z wave in play. Now, the way that we'd be looking at this as a Z wave would be effectively that this is our X wave here, and then we're looking for another A, B, and a C to the downside. So that's why if we see this as A, B, and C, and we push down towards this 28,410 level, potentially what we could see is a move back into this channel, and then this could either become an A, B, and a bigger C in this way, or alternatively, this could actually just be a Y wave completed. Now, the reason I wouldn't like it to be as small as that would be is if we look at the time proportion of these two intermediate bits that we've got over here, we'd probably be looking for something more along these lines where we see something drag out a little bit longer so that it, gets good time relationship towards these previous two waves. So if we do just see three waves down and we don't see any reaction to the upside, if we see something like this and then we see just correct the structure back up, it could mean that we're going to see something along these lines where this just looks to stretch out a little bit here and basically just has a bit more of a sideways move. Now if we are looking at this idea of actually pushing up directly here, once again we can argue that this is an A, a B, and a C here, or WXY rather, in which case we need to see price pushing up in that C wave. So even if we do see this 5-wave structure develop to the upside where this becomes 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, and even if this does get a bit bigger here where we get a series of 1s and 2s and we start to push up into this zone here of this 31,042 to this 30,119, we're gonna have to be very careful here that this isn't like I said, a bigger ABC pattern here where this becomes A, this becomes B, and then we see the C wave push to the upside here, and then after that we look for continuation to the downside afterwards. So this is just what we need to be very careful of, is if we do see just three waves up here, then potentially we could be still looking to push down towards this 1-to-1 at a later point, depending on how high we come here. If we came to this golden pocket area, which would be aligning quite nicely with that channel at the top end, we would be talking about 27,996. So at the moment, the structure up as an impulse is not looking good, but if we continue to hold those lows, then that potential, is there that we could see this look to actually develop as this impulse to the upside. Now, if we come in here and actually discuss this move to the downside here, we were talking about a couple of things in the previous video. We're saying that potentially this could look to complete into this low here, or alternatively, this could all be W, this could be X, and we're looking for an A, a B, and a C. Now we have come back up into this typical rejection area that we look for here, where we say that this 29,194 to this 29,111 was that 786 to that golden pocket. We came up past the 786 and we started to reject. Now the key thing here is, like I said, if this is 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, and we push down one more time and potentially look to sweep these lows, then we need to be on the lookout whether this is ABC, and then we see price look to react back to the upside here, or alternatively this becomes 1, 2, we get 3, 4, and 5. So if we just a smaller 5-wave move to the downside here, which looks to target out towards this zone here of this 28,737, then potentially this would align with that idea of seeing, just this is a 3-wave move down. Now the ideal place I'd like to see this actually hit would be this 28,621, which would be quite interesting, because potentially what this could mean is we see a bit of a sweep of this low over here. And what that would be looking for then would be the fact that, this is all a completed move. This is actually a B wave just lower down here. And then we still see that continuation to the upside afterwards. So this is going to be very important how we react here. We do have potential 5-wave structure to the downside. So we need to be very cautious about that idea that it can look to extend to the downside here. But we need to obviously see that confirmation. Now, it is also possible that within this count here, we were looking at this, just as a bigger A, a B, and a C pattern. So if this is actually W, X, and Y into this low here, we could be looking to form this B wave. Now this B wave could just be like this, where this is ABC here. And this would then mean that we're looking for, 5 waves from this point. So this is why it's going to be very important that if we do see a bigger 5-wave move to the downside here, we could be looking at this as just a corrective pattern. Now, if this is just a corrective pattern, this could be that Z wave, in which case what we'd be expecting is price to react and break back to the upside here and take these highs. Or alternatively, this whole move could be A, this could be B, and then we still see that C wave to the upside play out, looking for that idea that we are looking to come back up into this channel. So this is Going to be a little bit complex here. You know, we do have a lot of options here. If we do hold these lows, potentially we can look to rally directly. If we start to lose these lows here, I'm going to be keeping an eye on these lower levels here, seeing how we come down here, because if we do see this move just break down in 3-wave structure, even if we do get a 5-wave move at the end here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, unless we actually hit that target within this count here where we're looking for, you know, these 1618 levels, particularly this one lower down here, this 27,742, it is possible that this whole move is just part of a bigger corrective move, and then we're going to see that continuation down afterwards. Though even as long as we stay above this low, we can't write off entirely that idea that this is 1-2 here, and that we're actually looking for price to start to push to the upside directly. But we need to see that volume come in, and we need to see that structure starting to come in, because at the moment this is all looking just very corrective. So unless we actually manage to break back above this 29,778, the idea is that, you know, this is looking more likely that we're going to see this continuation to the downside here. Though if we do continue to hold these lows, then potentially what we could see is that bit of a rally in the C wave. And if we do get a 5-wave move to the upside where we start to see a 5-wave structure off this low, it's going to be important to see how we react from that point. Because if this is just A, B, and C, and we just get a 3-wave move up, we could then potentially still look for that continuation to the downside after that point. Also, in the previous video, what we're talking about is, you know, that bullish count is still an option. And we can see here that we're talking about, you know, these different trend lines that could potentially give us resistance on the way up here. So we have managed to more locally get back above these, and we're actually holding above them currently. This one currently, if we do see a back test of this level, would be towards this zone of this 28,865. To bring us back into these lows again. Effectively, what do we want to see here? If we are talking about that bullish continuation up, we need to start breaking back above these other trend lines to get, you know, this diagonal resistance out the way above us, because we've got, obviously, a lot of this is aligning with horizontal resistance higher up here as well. So it's going to be very important, if we are looking at that idea of a break to the upside, that we get back above these levels. And until we do that, we need to just be very careful of that more bearish situation where we could see that continuation down. Having a look at the daily CPR lines here, what we can see is that we are currently below our daily CPR lines here. These have printed above the previous ones, which is giving us a initial bullish indication, but we have moved up and already hit this R1 target. So because of that fact, it is possible that we can see price either look to break down here and look to hit this S1 line here towards this 28,984, or alternatively look to sweep this previous daily low. So this is what I'll be looking out for here, in this idea that we get a potential 5th wave down here. If we do see price actually push down here one more time, where we get this push into this zone, like I said previously, it's going to be important what happens. If we hold this level, then possibly we could see price look to come back into these central lines. If we reject off this area, that would align with this move extending out. If, however, we see price actually look to come down here, then see price react back above these levels and start to break back above 29,199. Potentially what we could then see is price could look to be gravitated towards the upside here. Targets for today would be this 29,310. We have this 29,412 and this 29,512 as potential targets. Now, if we look at the downside potential here, if we lose the S1 line here, other targets for today would be this 28,882. We have this 28,774 and this 28,668 as potential targets to the downside. Now we also have some new weekly CPRs. So let's have a look at what these are doing. So we can see these actually printed lower. So this is giving us an initial bearish bias here. And what we want to see is how price is responding to these levels. As long as we stay below these lines, we need to be very careful that price could actually start to be gravitated to the downside here towards this S1 line, which is sitting at this 28,430. If we see price move back up here, we can potentially look to find resistance on these central lines. But sitting here at this 29,163, we have the central line at the 29,243 and this 29,321 as a potential resistance to the upside. If we do look to make a move back above these, then potential targets for this week would be this 29,898. We have this level here of this 30,701, and this area here, this 31,368 is possible upside targets for this week. Now, if we do see price looking to continue to the downside here, we look to reject, like I said, we've got targets down here at this S1 at this 28,434. We have this 27,767 and this 26,676 as potential downside targets for this week. So this would kind of align with that idea of the price starting to break down if we start to meet some of these lower targets here. If we do only look for the S1 line, this would align more with the idea of this being a bigger corrective structure here. But if we see price starting to break down towards some of these lower CPR lines, then effectively this would align more with the idea that, you know, potentially we have this extending out as a 5-wave structure, looking to actually bring us back into this channel, which directly below us is sitting towards this 27k region. So going to be keeping an eye on that. If we do see price continue to push down here, potentially we could see some interactions with those zones. Now, if we look at the monthly pivots here, we can see that we are still currently below our central CPR lines here. And what I'm looking out for is if we fail to break back above these, we can see price look to potentially move to the downside. Your targets to the downside is this 28,134. We have this area here, this 27,031, aligning once again with the channel, and this 25,179, which would align with that idea of that 5-wave breakdown. Now, if we do see price move back up here, potentially we could find resistance between this 29,594, this 29,963, and this 30k region. If we do see price move back into these levels, I will be watching these zones as potential resistance moves to the upside. If we do manage to break back above these central lines, would be potentially towards this 31,074. We have other targets up here at this 32,897 and this 34k region. So going to be keeping an eye on these levels to see how price responds. Okay, so I'm going to leave the video there. I hope you found it useful. If you did, please smash the like button, hit that subscribe button if you haven't already, turn on those bell notifications so you never miss a video. Leave us some feedback down below, and also in the description you'll find a link to Discord. Come check it out, it is free to join. Everyone have a great day. We'll see you in the next one. Take care.